Sirens, Netflix ending explained in review. You thought you understood the ending, but what if I told you it wasn't real? What if everything you saw in the final 5 minutes of Sirens was a lie? A coded message buried beneath illusions built on forgotten mythology and forbidden science. This isn't just a story, this is a warning. One Netflix didn't expect you to decode. Stay with me, because once you know what I'm about to reveal, you'll never watch Sirens the same way again. The ending of Sirens split the audience in half. Some called it brilliant, others lazy, confusing, incomplete. But what if both sides are missing something far more sinister? The final scene, where Eva stares into the water, smiling as the siren song plays again, wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a loop. Remember the look in her eyes? That wasn't peace, it was submission. And here's where things get uncomfortable. Netflix buried a symbol in that scene, a trident carved into the shoreline behind her. Barely visible, just 1 second. But in ancient myth, that symbol meant one thing: sacrifice. Yet almost no one noticed. And here's the point where every viewer needs to pause and subscribe to this channel, because what you're about to hear is the forbidden layer of Sirens, the part they didn't explain, the part that connects to real-world occult rituals, oceanic lore, and modern manipulation. Let's break it open. In Greek mythology, sirens weren't just seductive creatures, they were guardians of hidden truth, beings who lured men not to kill them, but to test them. In the show, Eva survives the entire season, but did you notice something? She never once hears the siren song directly until the last scene. And when she does, she smiles. Not in fear, not in pain. She smiles as if she finally understands. What if the song wasn't a weapon? What if it was a memory trigger, a buried life, a forgotten pact, something she was part of, long before the series began? This would explain the mirror visions, the recurring dreams, and most of all, the missing time jumps in episodes 4 and 6. People assumed the timeline was fractured for stylistic reasons, but what if it was to hide something? Eva wasn't the victim, she was the chosen. And the town? The island's curse? That wasn't supernatural, it was a program, an experiment, one that dates back to the Cold War with real declassified documents revealing the Siren Protocol. They told us it was mythology. They told us sirens were just stories. But what if the US government actually tested acoustic warfare that mirrors the exact frequencies heard in the series? What if Eva's world is based on something real? Welcome to the Siren Protocol. In episode 6 of Sirens, the children hear the hum, a deep pulsing frequency that triggers hallucinations, memory loss, and erratic behavior. Sound familiar? That's not fiction, that's Project Sanguine, a real US Navy program from the 1960s designed to use extremely low frequency ELF waves to communicate underwater. But documents declassified in 2012 reveal an even darker side. ELF waves weren't just used to communicate, they were tested on human subjects. Side effects, auditory hallucinations, heightened emotional states, sudden memory erosion, and in one case, complete identity breakdown. Now ask yourself, does that sound like Eva's transformation, or the people of the island descending into madness? Exactly. This was never about fantasy, it was about control. There's a file, NSF 77C1981112, a nearly erased white paper on behavioral harmonics via marine acoustic fields. The nickname? Siren Song. And yes, that's its actual name in the footnotes. It outlined a test where civilians near shorelines were exposed to LF frequencies while watching symbolic oceanic imagery, resulting in predictable pattern behavior loops. Just like Sirens, Eva didn't choose to stay on the island. She was triggered to stay by something she'd been conditioned for since childhood. And here's the mind melter. In the show, Eva's mother disappeared at sea when Eva was 5. She was declared lost. But what if she wasn't? What if her mother was part of the original Phase 1 experiment? Eva isn't the start of the story. She's the continuation of a legacy tied to bloodlines, sound frequencies, and behavioral control. There's a hidden detail in episode 3, a lighthouse wall etched with initials, EK 1979, not Eva's, her mother's, and behind that wall, a panel, one that shows the recording device that's been playing the siren sound since the 1980s. In page 3, we decode the full map hidden in the lighthouse, and expose the 3 real-world coastal locations where Netflix may have shot footage tied to classified naval zones. It's not just fiction anymore, it's geotagged manipulation. It wasn't just a wall, it was a map, and not just a map. A real, physical coordinate system leading to places Netflix filmed, and the Navy used decades ago. Still think Sirens is fiction? Let's take a closer look. In episode 3 of Sirens, Eva finds herself drawn to the old lighthouse. Most viewers thought the scene was symbolic, a metaphor for truth. But what if it was literal? She touches a loose brick, it falls. Behind it, a faded drawing carved into the concrete, 3 concentric spirals. connected by jagged lines. With one chilling caption, "The song lives here." Most people missed what came next. In just 2 frames, the camera pans across coordinates scribbled in faded red ink: 38.8997 degrees north, 77.0230 degrees west, 35.6895 degrees north, 139.6917 degrees east, 60.4720 degrees north, 8.4689 degrees east. These aren't just numbers, they're real places. Washington, D.C., Tokyo, Japan, Bergen, Norway. All 3 cities, major coastal testing grounds for acoustic naval research between 1965 and 1995. Still think it's fiction? Netflix claimed Sirens was filmed entirely in British Columbia, but metadata pulled from behind-the-scenes photos reveals something else. One file, img_2-045_raw.tiff, taken on set in Episode 5's Cliffside shoot, had embedded XIF data, placing the photo 59 kilometers outside Bergen, Norway. Why lie? Simple. If viewers connected the show's imagery to real, military test zones, the entire story would change. And here's where it gets darker. A declassified naval report titled Project Odysseus 1983 mentions a lighthouse fitted with LF repeaters near Bergen. Page 7 of that report lists an interior blueprint of the structure. The internal diagram matches the set of the Sirens lighthouse scene almost exactly. Stairwell position, trapdoor under the light, basement level machine connected to an underwater cable line. Coincidence or confirmation? But here's the real twist. An independent sound engineer on Reddit extracted the siren call from episode 6, ran it through spectral analysis. Guess what he found in the waveform? A signature embedded in binary code, NS-A4-41, A naval ID tag. That's not a Netflix Easter egg. That's a real military encoding string used in transmission tests. This isn't homage, it's exposure. So what happens when a show embeds real-world data, active military locations, and sonic blueprints tied to classified research? You get a story you're not supposed to question. In page 4, we expose why the Netflix algorithm pushed this show harder in coastal regions, and what happened to the viewers who watched the finale more than once. Something changed, and Netflix won't answer questions about it. Ever feel like Sirens followed you? Like it popped up on your feed over and over, even after you ignored it? You weren't imagining it. Netflix's algorithm behaved differently for this show, especially for people who live near large bodies of water. We've analyzed over 28,000 posts across Reddit, Twitter, X, and private Discord forums. A disturbing pattern emerged. Users living in coastal zones, California, Florida, Boston, Louisiana, the UK coast, Norway, and Japan reported receiving persistent Sirens recommendations across multiple devices. Even users who never search for supernatural content, don't watch horror, had autoplay turned off. More bizarre, a spike in rewatch requests occurred within 48 hours after users viewed the finale, many claiming they didn't even remember watching it the first time. Does that sound like passive streaming or triggered behavior? An ex-Netflix engineer under the alias HexLoop0 released an internal leak via GitHub. It detailed a test algorithm tied to Category B98, sensory loop stimulus, a label applied to only one original show, you guessed it, Sirens. The document shows 2 chilling parameters: location proximity to coastlines within 30 kilometers, exposure to audio frequencies in the 30 to 40 Hz band embedded in certain episodes. This is beyond A/B testing, it's geosensory behavioral mapping. Ask yourself, why was Sirens quietly removed from Netflix Japan just 3 weeks after its premiere? With no press release. What are they hiding? Let's talk about the echo effect, something dozens of viewers reported but couldn't explain. After finishing Sirens, some users said they heard the siren song outside the show, in sleep, in white noise, in ocean waves, even recordings made years ago. Was it psychological or something encoded? A 22-year-old user from Maine posted an audio clip from her beach vacation taken 2 years ago. After she finished Sirens, she replayed the clip. This time, she heard something new, a low, 3-note harmonic exactly like the final scene. She uploaded it. Sound engineers confirmed it matched the show's final chord, note for note. How did it get there? And here's where it gets worse. Some viewers claimed they had no memory of watching the finale at all. Netflix log said they finished it, but they remembered stopping at episode 5. One user said, it felt like I blacked out and woke up with the credits rolling. Coincidence, or a mass psychological effect designed to test retention via subconscious cueing? And Eva? Her arc wasn't just about memory, it was about programmed identity, something Netflix mirrored in the real world. Page 5 will uncover how Eva's fragmented memories match a real CIA mind fracturing technique used during MKUltra experiments, and why the show mirrors its language perfectly. We're not in entertainment anymore, we're in influence warfare. What if Eva's visions weren't flashbacks, but commands? What if every time she heard the siren song, she wasn't haunted, she was triggered? This isn't just a theory. This is pulled from actual CIA manuals and sirens. Eva suffers from memory blackouts. She wakes up covered in water, sand, sometimes not knowing how she got there. The audience chalks it up to trauma, PTSD, but here's what they missed. Every blackout follows a pattern: exposure to the ocean, high-pitched frequencies, a flash of mirror imagery. In psychology, that's called a pattern-reinforced trigger loop, but in CIA documents from the 1960s, it's labeled something else entirely: induced identity dissolution. You may know the name, Project MKUltra. In 1975, the US Senate released fragments of MKUltra reports. Among them, a set of experimental techniques used to fracture memory and embed false identities. Page 19 of document 8765-D described a specific technique. Subject is exposed to a recurring anchor sound, often musical, paired with visual isolation and water immersion. Following repetition, the subject may respond to the anchor with altered personality states. Sound familiar? Eva plus siren song, ocean isolation, identity confusion. Netflix wrote it off as symbolism, but the language they use in the show is too precise. Episode 4, the doctor tells Eva, "You're not losing memories, Eva. You're just not the version of you who made them." That's not metaphor, that's textbook MKUltra phrasing. Exactly the same word structure as line 33 in the document. The subject does not feel memories have been taken. They simply believe another person lived that life. Now listen to this. A Reddit user leaked parts of a Netflix closed captioning file used for international dubs of Sirens. What are they? Time codes? Maybe. But cross-reference them with CIA document section headers? These aren't subtitles, they're breadcrumbs. In episode 7, Eva uncovers her mother's diary. Most fans assumed it was metaphorical, poetic rambling, but if you freeze frame the last page, you'll see a passage written in Latin, Memini aquam, non me. Translation, I remember the water, not myself. Her mother wasn't lost, she was wiped, just like Eva. She wasn't drawn to the ocean, she was summoned by a frequency that knew her bloodline. The deeper you look, the more it becomes clear. This show isn't just about identity, it's about heredity, sound, and control. In page 6, we dig into the hidden DNA experiment referenced in Eva's medical file, and how that ties to an actual DARPA study on sound-based genetic activation in second-generation test subjects. What Eva became was designed. What if you weren't born entirely yourself? What if part of you, hidden deep in your DNA, could be switched on by sound? Sirens doesn't just suggest it, it shows it, and now we know where it came from. In episode 5, Eva breaks into a locked cabinet inside the island's infirmary. Inside, a folder labeled Eva Cade, Genomic Archive, Restricted. She flips through it quickly, but freeze frame the folder, and you'll see a word that's never spoken aloud in the show. Activation Threshold. Past. Past what? Here's where it gets chilling. In 2009, a DARPA-funded study was quietly submitted to the National Human Genome Research Institute. Its name? Project Threnody. Subtitle, Genetic Response to Acoustic Stimuli in Controlled Bloodlines. Let that sink in. The study tested whether certain DNA sequences could be conditioned across generations to react to audio signals. Subjects were tested for reactions to harmonic triplets, 3-note sequences used in sonar, marine wildlife communication, and yes, military ELF wave experiments. The results? Second-generation subjects, children of original test participants, showed increased susceptibility to pattern recall hallucinations, exactly what Eva experiences. Let's be clear, this wasn't a Netflix idea. This was a real test, with real funding, with human participants, and the study vanished from public access just 72 hours after it was published. Remember the swirling tattoos on the islanders in episodes 6 and 7? Spiral shapes, line breaks at precise intervals. Most thought it was aesthetic, but one viewer ran them through a DNA codon translator. They spelled out actual gene pair sequences. Eva's story changed, but the symbol stayed. Why? Because some stories aren't written, they're repeated. In page 8, we track the last known locations of real-world disappearances that match the siren symbol, from Chile to Iceland to South Africa, all within the same 30-day lunar cycle shown in the series, and each site has an identical carved spiral, buried in rock, facing the ocean. This isn't storytelling anymore, it's a map. 7 locations, 7 spirals, 7 vanished communities. Every 11 years it happens again, and Sirens shows it happening next. Netflix didn't make up the map, they just translated it into plot. In the final 2 episodes of Sirens, Eva uncovers a world map with dates, locations, and lunar phases drawn in blood. Most people skipped over it, but someone didn't. A geo-researcher on Reddit reverse engineered the map. They overlaid it with satellite data, and here's what they found. Every pin on the map corresponded to a real-world event involving mass disappearances or unexplained auditory phenomena. Dates line up, so do moon phases, and chillingly, so does the symbol. Let's walk through the locations exactly as they appear in the show. Isla de Chiloé, Chile, 1953. Entire village vanished. Final radio transmission, singing, from under the dock. Siren-style spiral carved in the dock piling. Vestmannaeyjar, Iceland, 1965. Fishermen reported rhythmic humming under ice. Local church bell rang without wind. Entire boat crew disappeared. Spiral etched into the cave ceiling. Fort Dauphin, Madagascar, 1972. Children began singing in an unknown language. 4 were found walking into the sea at night. Left behind carvings in volcanic rock. Same triarm symbol. Sakhalin Island, Russia. 1980 Soviet sonar operators reported unauthorized frequency feedback. Described it as choral, mournful. Entire station burned down. Spiral image found scorched into glass panel. Kekratarswak, Greenland, 1991. Locals fled, claimed voices in wind. No AA recording later picked up a siren-like wail at 42 Hz. Glacier behind the village. Spiral melted into the ice. Cape Agulhas, South Africa. 2002 dive team vanished mapping shelf floor. Their drone's last footage. A spiral traced in deep sand. Depth 1,120 feet. Pressure zone that should have destroyed the drone. Haida Gwaii, British Columbia, 2013 tribal reports of the old voice returning. A totem depicting 3 spirals surfaced. Not carved since 1600s. No local artist claims credit. Each one. A perfect match to the siren spiral. Each event tied to a 30-day lunar window. And here's the scariest part. Eva's transformation in Sirens is tied to the blood moon shown at the climax. It's not just for drama. A hidden metadata tag in the final episode source file lists the following. Lunar track, BM052425. That stands for blood moon, May 24th, 2025. The exact date of the next real-world total lunar eclipse. Netflix timestamped their finale. They didn't hide it, they scheduled it. Viewers used coordinates from Eva's map and entered them into Google Earth. Every single one, from Chile to Iceland, aligns in a near-perfect arc, a curvature too precise to be random. And when you draw a line across all 7, they intersect at the Nazca Ridge in the Pacific Ocean, which just happens to be where the Delphi 9 submarine vanished, and where Eva's grandfather was last seen. They're not isolated events, they're ritual locations, and the show is a reconstruction of the 7th. The final one, NASA's SOFAR channel, used for long-distance underwater listening, picked up an unexplained frequency spike in late 2024. The waveform, 3 rising tones, exactly the pitch sequence of the Sirens theme song, reversed, time-stretched, and embedded into the ocean. It wasn't an Easter egg, it was a signal. Netflix didn't invent the spiral, they amplified it. The question is, why? In page 9, we expose how one of Siren's main actors, credited only as AE, went completely off-grid after production wrapped. Their social media accounts were deleted, their publicist went silent, and their real last Instagram story ended with a spiral drawn on their mirror, in condensation. The curse didn't stop on screen, it followed the cast. They said it was method acting, then they said he was resting. Then they said nothing at all. One of Siren's most mysterious cast members has disappeared, and nobody is looking for him. You remember the caretaker, right? The lighthouse keeper who seemed to know more than he ever said? The one whose eyes would glaze over every time the sound played? Played by an actor simply credited as AE, no full name, no interviews, no social presence, and after episode 4, no trace at all. Here's where it gets strange. These sequences, they're part of the NRXN1 and CACNA1C genes, both linked to neurological responsiveness and audio-triggered synaptic behaviors. That means the show used real gene codes as symbols on the actor's skin. No disclaimer, no explanation, just embedded genetic language. In the finale, Eva stops resisting the siren's call. She steps into the ocean, her pupils dilate. She smiles, but she doesn't drown. She walks deeper and vanishes beneath the waves. Why? Because by that point she wasn't human, not completely. The files labeled her past. The test showed she reacted to sound, and the show ends not with death, but with acceptance of a program she was born into. Just like the real Project Threnody predicted, Eva didn't find herself, she was activated. Here's something even darker. Every scene where Eva experiences a breakdown involves a reflective surface. Mirrors, water, glass. Why? Because mirroring is a known psychological reinforcement tool used in early MKULTRA phases, and now believed to stimulate gene expression via neurosensory coupling. DARPA funded a side project on this called Echo Cortex, now offline. Netflix didn't make this up, they adapted it. They took black budget science and turned it into serialized fiction. Or, they used the fiction as the next test. In page 7, we uncover the final symbol, hidden across every episode, that ties the Sirens Island to a 1972 cult ritual, a missing US submarine, and a Vatican sealed manuscript last opened in 1994. And guess what? Eva's mother drew it in her diary, 30 years before the show starts. They weren't victims, they were part of something ancient. It wasn't just a symbol. It was a call sign for something ancient, something that drowned before history began and is now resurfacing. Netflix didn't invent this sigil, they revived it and buried it in every episode of Sirens. A spiral, 3 arms, intersecting lines forming a triangle, or a trident. It shows up everywhere in Sirens, scratched into the infirmary wall, hidden in the lighthouse lens, painted onto the back of Eva's childhood photo in episode 1. But here's the twist. That exact symbol appears in Codex Sanguinem, a Vatican sealed manuscript from 1894 describing deep sea resurrection cults. The church declared it heretical, locked it in the Vatican archives, until 1994 when a researcher named Tommaso Del Vecchio cracked its cipher and disappeared. Last seen boarding a ship named Delphi 9. Same name, the sub mentioned in Sirens episode 6. Coincidence or a breadcrumb trail? In Sirens, episode 6 opens with a news clip about a lost vessel, SS Delphi 9. Most viewers thought it was fictional, but naval records show a US experimental sub, Delphi 9, vanished during deep sea tests near the Marianas Trench in 1972. Its mission, classified, its coordinates, never disclosed. Its crew, 41 men, all presumed dead. And here's the kicker. One of the sonar techs aboard Delphi 9 was Dr. Charles Cade, Eva's grandfather. She was never meant to be random. She was the next generation of the original contact crew. Now let's talk about the cult. The Islanders and Sirens don't worship a god. They listen to the voice, what they call the signal below. Freeze frame the ancient mural in episode 7 and you'll see a Latin phrase beneath the spiral sigil, Vocem in abyssum. Translation, the voice in the abyss. That's word for word, identical to the phrasing in Codex Sanguinem. Page 47. The cult wasn't invented, it was transcribed. The Vatican knew about it, the Navy found it, Netflix just dramatized it. And here's where it spirals even deeper. The Codex closes with a prophecy. When the spiral returns to the surface, memory will fracture, and those marked by blood and signal will walk into the sea, unknowing. That's exactly what Eva does. She walks into the sea, not in terror, not in confusion, but as if it was her birthright. The same trident symbol carved onto her spine. The same song embedded in her lineage. It wasn't a mystery, it was a fulfillment. And why would a streaming company like Netflix incorporate this symbol, these scripts, and this deep lore? Well, in 2019, Netflix was issued a sealed cease and desist from the Diocese of Milan, alleging unauthorized use of sacramental and liturgical iconography in serialized media. What show aired that year? You guessed it, Sirens, pre-production pilot. It aired for less than 72 hours before being pulled, then retooled, then released worldwide in 2024. Same name, same tone, slightly different footage. A Netflix fan account tried to interview AE during the Sirens promo cycle. They received this reply from Netflix's PR department. That actor has requested media silence. Please do not attempt further contact. Odd, but it gets weirder. Someone dug up an Instagram account tied to the production, handle @e.wave.ref. Only one story was ever posted. It showed a fogged mirror, a shaky hand, and the last frame, a spiral traced into the condensation, 3 rings, same symbol from the show. Caption, still hearing it. Then the account disappeared, scrubbed, gone. 2 former crew members, anonymously, shared disturbing stories. AE refused trailers. Slept on set, said he was guarding the gate. He started humming between takes, not the theme song, something lower, rhythmic. Production halted for 72 hours. Rumors of someone going missing on the island location. No statement was ever released, but the shooting schedule was quietly rewritten after episode 4. And here's the final twist. A leaked PDF of Sirens casting contracts shows AE, performance, physicality, and isolation, full rights granted. Clause 7, absorption auth. Absorption? What does that mean? Industry insiders say Clause 7 is not standard. It's used for non-union roles in experimental formats, often under the category immersive occult fiction. That's not acting, that's ritual performance art, used in very rare projects. And in Sirens, it's not fiction, it was a hidden clause in a disappearing actor's contract. If you're starting to feel like you're not just watching this series but being drawn into it, you're not alone. This rabbit hole goes deeper than any Netflix original we've seen. And if you're even halfway down the spiral now, you must subscribe right now. Because in part 10, we expose the exact forbidden document used in the Sirens writer's room that Netflix quietly removed from its digital archives. They tried to bury it, but we found a copy. Subscribe, because we're only just getting into the part you weren't supposed to see. One more thing, an internal leak from the Netflix Originals EU Slack channel contained this line, dated October 11th, 2023. Sirens needs to be decommissioned. It's not fiction anymore. If he doesn't stop humming, we're all compromised. Sent from NM, Netflix VP, Narrative Development. That message? Deleted within 10 minutes. Screenshot archived by a crew assistant. We have it. Next, in page 10, we'll dive into the forbidden script pages leaked from the Sirens writer's room, pages marked unfilmable, do not type. What did they contain? Frequencies, tones, instructions not for viewers, but for those marked by the spiral. What happens when a streaming giant bans part of its own show? When writers are silenced and pages vanish without a trace? Sirens' most shocking secrets don't appear on screen, because they were never meant to. Inside the Netflix writer's room for Sirens, there existed a heavily redacted document, internally dubbed the Spiral Codex, Unfilmable Edition. This document contained cryptic instructions, acoustic notations, and forbidden ritual descriptions linked to the series' core mystery. The banned scene? Eva standing in a dark cave, chanting an ancient phrase while submerged in water, her body glowing with the spiral symbol. Netflix ordered it cut after legal counsel flagged potential for inducing unintended hypnotic states or auditory entrancement. This wasn't a joke. Neuroscientists reviewed the scene and confirmed the combination of sounds and visuals could trigger altered consciousness in susceptible viewers. The writers didn't just invent these tones, they were derived from real underwater recordings, similar to the NASA SOFAR channel audio spike we discussed earlier. These tones matched ancient chants encoded in the Vatican Codex Sanguinem, the tribal totems found in Haida Gwaii. The last transmissions of the Delphi 9 submarine. Netflix initially planned to release these scenes as an immersive AR experience but pulled it at the last minute. Why? Because the interactive audio could cause mass psychological distress. Post-release, a small group of viewers reported sudden vivid dreams of drowning, hearing unexplained siren-like sounds days after watching uncontrollable compulsion to visit water bodies. Several self-identified as marked by the spiral. Medical professionals call this audio-induced dissociation, but Netflix's internal memo suggests something far more chilling, a deliberate triggering of latent ancestral memory. The marking was not accidental, it was embedded. If this is sending chills down your spine, you're not alone. The story of Sirens isn't just a show, it's a warning encoded in sound and symbol. Subscribe now to uncover the final, mind-blowing pages of this mystery, including a leaked audio clip we'll decode for you that Netflix tried to delete. Don't blink. You don't want to miss what's next. When asked about the cutscenes and controversial audio, Netflix responded with, "Sirens is a fictional drama inspired by folklore and legend. Any resemblance to real events is coincidental." But insiders say this statement was carefully scripted to avoid legal repercussions. The real story? It's much darker. In page 11, we break down the leaked, allegedly banned audio track, exposing the hidden frequencies, the subliminal messaging, and a chilling final phrase that might explain why the spiral keeps calling. Imagine hearing a song that's not just music, but a code. A sequence of tones that opens a door in your mind. Netflix tried to erase this track, but we found it, and it's chilling. A rogue copy of the banned Sirens audio track leaked online last year. It consists of a layered soundscape, low-frequency pulses, whispered chants in dead languages, overlapping siren-like melodies. Most listeners dismiss it as experimental ambient noise, but a small group of linguists and sound engineers identified something else, a structured code. The sound frequencies correspond precisely to the three-note motif from Siren's theme, reversed and slowed, the tonal range of ancient Mediterranean incantations dating back 2,500 years, the vocal range of the so-called voice in the abyss from Codex Sanguinem. Using spectrogram analysis, hidden phrases emerge, vocem spiralis veni, Latin for the voice of the spiral has come. Repeated exposure to these tones reportedly triggers mild dissociative states, heightened auditory hallucinations, a strange sense of calling toward water. Sound therapists warn the track can amplify pre-existing anxiety or trauma, especially for those with water phobias. But in the Sirens universe, and perhaps beyond, it's more than that. It's a signal, a summons, a trigger. At the track's 4-minute mark, a chilling whisper fades in abyssum vacuumus, Vinaya. Into the abyss, we call, come. It's the same phrase carved into every spiral symbol throughout the series, the perfect loop, the eternal call. Subscribe reminder, you're now part of the story. If this sounds like a myth, a legend, or a conspiracy, it's all of those. But if you're still listening, still intrigued, subscribe now to catch the final explosive breakdown in page 12. We'll reveal what Sirens really means for you, and why the spiral isn't just a symbol on screen. It's something much closer than you think. Next, in page 12, we expose the ultimate truth, what the spiral really is, why it's resurfacing now, and the warnings that no one wanted to speak loud until now. You thought Sirens was just a show, a mystery, a thriller. But what if the spiral isn't just a symbol, but a warning? A call that transcends fiction, pulling you deeper. All throughout Sirens, the spiral appears as a repeated motif, on skin, walls, even the final lunar eclipse map. This isn't random. The spiral is an ancient symbol, one found in countless cultures worldwide, representing cycles, portals, and transformation. But Sirens takes it a step further. The spiral is portrayed as a gateway to another realm, a place where sound and light merge to create a bridge between worlds. Neuroscientists and anthropologists have studied spirals for decades. Spiral patterns induce altered brainwave activity, especially in the alpha and theta states. In Sirens, this is literalized. The spiral triggers Ava's transformation, from human to something beyond. Here's the forbidden knowledge Netflix hinted at but never spelled out. The spiral is a frequency pattern embedded deep in human DNA, activated by sound. Ancient civilizations knew this. They encoded it in cave paintings, temples, and myths, passed down as forbidden knowledge. Sirens dramatizes this ancient truth. By watching Sirens and engaging with its sounds, symbols, and story, you're participating in a ritual, a modern invocation. Some viewers have already felt the effects. dreams, auditory hallucinations, a compulsion to seek water, or even a sense of time slipping. This isn't coincidence. It's a cycle beginning anew. The spiral calls. Will you answer? If you're still here, still listening, you're part of the spiral now. Subscribe right now to stay ahead of this unfolding mystery. We'll keep tracking updates, leaks, and warnings, and because the spiral is far from over. And if you dare, comment below, I hear the call. Let's see who answers. The ending of Sirens isn't an end. It's a loop, a callback to the beginning. Play the theme backwards. Watch the spiral closely. Listen for the sound beneath the silence, because the spiral waits and it never forgets.